What's going on YouTube? It's Tom here today, back with another video. What we're doing today is we're doing a knife steel tier list. I've seen some other channels do that in the past. Tier lists are kind of starting to make a comeback right now. They're kind of popping off on YouTube again. So I figured I'd go ahead and get in on this, and we're going to make a knife steel tier list. So I guess let me explain the tier list system to you guys first. S is obviously superior, A, B, C, D, and then at the very bottom here, if I haven't used it, that's where I'm going to have to put it because I don't have any opinions on it. This is all based on my personal use, not necessarily where these would rank as far as edge retention or toughness or anything like that. Just kind of where I feel like these belong on this list. So let's go ahead and hop right into this. First up, we've got 1095. I have not used 1095 a ton. Just doesn't really interest me a whole lot. The times that I have used it, it's not really impressed me at all. So I'm going to have to throw that into the D tier. Might get some hate on that one. I know a lot of guys love 1095. It's a tough steel, but I know that you guys know that I like to focus on edge retention for the stuff that I do. So not really a huge fan of it. 10V. The only experience I have with 10V is the 10V PM2. And that honestly was a pretty darn good steel. Felt good, sharpened good. Held an edge for a really nice amount of time. I don't have a ton of use with it, just basically, a month or two maybe. Sharpened it 3 or 4 different times. From what I remember, I'd have to put that, it's between A and B tier for me. I think I'm going to put it B, but it's going to be high B, like almost A tier. The closer it is to the letter, the higher it is on that list. I'm going to kind of move them around in here. 12C27. Don't have a ton of experience with 12C27 either. I want to say that's what Victorinox uses for their stainless steel. Seems to be an alright steel. Not really impressive in any light, but I mean, easy to sharpen. Holds an edge for a decent amount of time. I'm going to have to put that in the D tier, but I'm going to put it above 1095. 3V. I've used 3V a decent amount. Again, one of those tough steels that, I don't really focus on the toughness part of it. So for me, 3V ends up being in C tier. Just kind of average, a little bit below average for me. 154 cm. I have a decent amount of experience with 154 cm. I've used it a decent amount. I'm going to have to put that in the C tier as well. It's a very nice overall steel, very well balanced. Easy to sharpen, holds an edge for a decent amount of time, easy to touch up. I actually like it a little bit more than 3V, so I'm going to put it ahead of 3V there. 420HC, you guys already know that's going in the D tier. Above 1095 though. If it's well heat treated, it's not too bad, but if it's not well heat treated, it's absolutely garbage. 440C, again, D tier. Just not that great as far as the examples that I've used. It doesn't impress me in any light whatsoever. Behind 420HC for me, but ahead of 1095. 4V. I like 4V. I like 4V a lot. Very easy to sharpen steel. Holds an edge for a really nice amount of time, depending what hardness it's run at. I had a Spyderco Manix in it, and right now I've got a SPK Shark in it as well. Doing some long-term testing on that one right now. I'm going to have to put that one in A tier. It's not quite S tier. It's very good. It's very good, but I don't think it has quite what I'm looking for it to be S tier. 52-100. Believe it or not, this is one that I have not used at all. I know a lot of guys really like 52-100. I just have not had a chance to handle it or use it yet. 52-100, the only time I ever had a knife or saw a knife that I wanted in 52-100 was the old Manix with the gray G10 and the black blade. That was a pretty slick color combo. That's the only reason I wanted it, was the color combo, really. 8CR 13MOV. That's got to go below 1095. It's not usable, in my opinion. For my uses every day, just unusable. 9CR 18MOV. Now, don't confuse it with 8CR because it is a very good steel when it's heat treated well. I think Civivi was doing it for a little while. There might be another brand or two that are using 9CR. But Civivi 9CR was very impressive. In my testing, I loved the way that it sharpened up. The edge came up super, super sticky. Big fan of 9CR actually. It doesn't quite have the firepower to be up into, A territory or even B. I'd put it in C, but it's going to obviously be below 154 cm and 3V for me. ABL. Believe it or not, another steel I haven't used. I have a little fixed blade in it right now from Transparent Knives that I'd like to test and get some more use on, but I have not had a chance to use that one yet. AUS 10. I have tested 2 knives in AUS 10, I think. Very, very impressed with it. It and 9CR 18 have been very, very impressive. Very, very similar. They basically sharpen up the same, take a nice sticky edge, very fine grained. Big fan of both of those steels, especially for the price that you're paying for them. AUS 8. That is another one that I think is very impressive for the money. I think it gets a lot of crap for being a budget steel. But man, is it actually pretty good. It sharpens up nice. Holds an edge for a decent amount of time for being a budget steel. It's right there with AUS 10, obviously, but it's going to be a little bit below it. The edge retention isn't quite as good. BD1N. That's another one that I have not used to this point. I'd like to try it. I don't know. There hasn't been a knife that it's been in that I've wanted to pick up. And I don't know. Just haven't had a chance to use that one yet. I'd like to, though. BD1. Now, I have used BD1 an okay amount. This is tough. I don't like BD1 as much as AUS 10 or AUS 8, so I'm going to have to put it in C tier, kind of towards the tail end back here. Just not quite as big of a fan. I think these two steels, AUS 10 and AUS 8, as well as 9CR, for the same amount of money or less than BD1, are actually a little bit nicer. Crew wear. So right here, it's up there. It's between A tier and S tier. I think crew wear for me is going to be the first S tier steel. It's so well balanced. It really is up to the maker on how hard they run it. The harder they run it, the better it's going to be. Since it's a somewhat simple steel. Good toughness. Sharpens up amazing. Holds an edge for a really nice amount of time for being as tough as it is. It's just a great overall balance. And I'm not normally a fan of those really balanced steels like crew wear or 4V is another one that's really well balanced. I don't normally like the jack of all trade steels like that, but man, crew wear is so good. D2. You already know. I absolutely hate D2 with a passion. I don't think I really need to say much more than that. It's awful to me. LMAX. I've used it once or twice, and from my limited experience with it, that is very C tier to me. Not quite in the same level of D tier steels like this, but I will put it slightly above BD1 and AUS 8 and AUS 10, and I'll put it right behind 3V. I like 3V a little bit more than LMAX. I just don't think it's that impressive. And the examples that I've handled is just not that impressive. H1, used it once or twice. Carried it for a little while, and I think it was in a Pacific Salt. I don't remember. I think that's what it was. I think it was a Pacific Salt. Sharpens up really nice, but man, the edge retention is shit. I'm going to put it right above D2 because nothing can be worse than D2. HAP 40. Had one knife in it, the old Warncliffe Delica. Used it a very limited amount. From what I remember with HAP 40 is it was good, but wasn't great. I'll put it... Does it bump 3V? I think I'd put it ahead of 3V. Yeah, I like that. Right ahead of 3V, but behind 154 cm. K390. If you guys didn't know, I did a long-term carry project with K390 on the PM2 that I have. So I have a really, really good amount of use on K390. I also have a K390 Shark from Steingraber for Performance Knives. So I have a lot of experience with K390, and with that, I would solidly cement K390 as an S tier steel, and I'm going to put it above crew wear. K390 is so good, sharpens up so nice, the edge retention is insane. For being as high carbide as it is, has pretty darn good toughness. You know, you don't really chip it very easily. Very, very nice steel, especially running a harder hardness like my Shark is. Just an awesome overall steel. LC200N. I've had 2 or 3 different Spidey chefs over the years, so I have a decent amount of use with LC200N. I would have to put that... It's got good edge retention, but not great. It sharpens up pretty nice, takes a pretty sticky edge. I think I'm going to have to put that... I'm going to put it in front of 154cm because I think it has slightly better edge retention than 154cm, but overall they're very, very similar. This has LC200N has more stainlessness. Not a huge issue for me, but it is nice to have that extra stainless property. M390. So M390 is very, very similar to LMAX. LMAX is technically a tickle tougher, I believe. This is going to apply for 20CV and 204P as well. That's why they're not on the list here. M390. From the knives that I've tried in M390, I would put it as B tier, but it's going to be very, very close to the end of B tier. It's like between B and C tier to me. M4. M4's been around for ages. Quite a few different companies making it. Spyderco makes it. Benchmade uses it regularly in their production stuff. M4 is a great steel. Seems like most companies get it right. Heat treated pretty well. Good edge retention on that stuff. Toughness is kind of... It's okay for what it is. I guess I'm going to have to throw M4. I'd put it in front of M390, but behind 10V in the B tier here. Maximate. You guys know I got a ton of experience with Maximate. Just love the way that it sharpens up. Edge retention is insane. Edge strength is really, really nice. The only downside to it is that it does chip up a little easy if you hit something that you're not, if you're not paying attention, you hit something hard, it's going to chip. That's just how it is. I think it gets a bad rap in the community for being unsharpenable and just not that nice overall. Basically impossible to work with. But man, I really like Maximate. Maximate is an S tier steel to me. Just a little bit behind K390 because I think I like the slightly more balanced properties of K390 a little bit more. But if I'm looking for just pure edge retention, Maximate's it. Rex 121. I've got a SPK Sasquatch in that. I think it's at like 71 HRC if I'm remembering right. 70 to 71, something like that. I did a long-term carry on that one as well. Video is not out on that yet. But I'm going to let you guys know that this stuff is absolutely A tier. It's super nice. Edge retention is just bonkers. The only reason it's not S tier to me is it sharpens a little funky. With that much carbide volume, it just doesn't take the sticky edge that these 3 steels take. And that's kind of what I look for when I'm sharpening. I kind of like that real nice sticky edge. Rex 121 doesn't do that. It takes a nice edge, but it's chunkier because of all the carbides. That's just the way that it's going to be. Rex 45. Rex 45 is very nice. I got a decent amount of experience with that. I had a Millie that someone sent in to me to test for the long-term project. Then I had a Mannix in it for a little while. I would put Rex 45 above M4, but below 10V. I just don't think it doesn't have the firepower that 10V has. But the edge stability on it because it's ran so hard is insane. You really don't chip it, you don't roll it, it just kind of blunts over time. S110V. This is another steel I feel like gets a bad rap. If you're on, any of the forums or any of the Facebook groups and you see, a PM2 or Para 3 or a Mannix snapped in half right at the opening hole, it's almost always S110V. I think that's just because people don't know, what they're doing with it. You put lateral pressure on a high pressure steel or a high carbide steel like that, it's gonna snap. from my experience with S110V, I wasn't a huge fan of it. It kind of feels like Maximit's worst cousin. Very high carbide, doesn't sharpen up to be as crisp as what Maximit does. It kind of feels a lot like Rex 121 to me. And for that reason, I'm going to have to throw this. It's in front of M390, but not by much. It's not on the same level as the 3 in front of it. It's not a sharpener steel. I don't like it for that reason. S30V. I'm so tired of seeing all the S30V slander. It's such a nice steel. It's very, very well balanced. I said that's not really something I like. Normally is a well balanced steel like that. The S30V is easily A tier to me, even though it's at the very end of the A tier. It's just such a nice balance. Sharpens up nice, holds an edge for an appropriate amount of time. And you can get it at like any price point. So it's just widely available, and I think it's a steel that is very, very underrated in today's market. S35VN. Not really a fan of S35VN. I don't know. The edge retention isn't there. I feel like it rolls over a little bit easier for me. I feel like, I don't know, it sharpens up a little bit nicer than S30V. I'll give it that. But that's not worth the trade-offs, I don't think. S35VN, for me, is going to be kind of between S110V and M390. If I see either of these two steels on a knife, it's almost a guaranteed no buy for me, just because I'm not impressed by either one. S45VN, haven't had a chance to test it yet. It sounds good on paper. It sounds like a nice blend between S35 and S30V, but we will see. Hope to get my hands on one of those here in the near future. S90V. Currently have 3 knives in S90V. So far, I'm really liking what I'm seeing. Just sharpens up really, really nice. It's stainless, has high edge retention. It seems like a very, very impressive overall steel. I'll throw it behind 4V, but in front of S30V in the A tier. Spy 27. That's another one I haven't used yet. I'd like to get my hands on it here in the future. I don't know what knife I want to buy it in. I don't know if I want a 4th native or a pair 3 or something like that. But it's one that seems very intriguing, and I know that Gerald really likes his, so I'm curious to see what I would think of it. Super Blue. I wasn't that impressed with Super Blue. Edge retention kind of sucked, but as a sharpener, Super Blue is up there as one of the best steels to sharpen. That stuff is awesome. So based on that alone, I'm going to put it at the end of C tier, but that's only because the sharpening is saving it. Otherwise, it'd be D tier to me. Venatus 4 Extra is very, very similar to 4V. Like I said, with 4V, it kind of depends what hardness it's ran at. The harder you run it, the better it's going to be as far as edge retention goes and edge stability. The V4E that I tested and that I had in a Bradford Guardian was ran a little bit softer. And because of that, I think some of the properties suffered a little bit. So I'm going to put it below the 4V that I've tried, even though technically they're analogs of each other. Van Axe. It's another one I haven't tested yet. Hasn't been a knife that came out in that made me want to buy it. If Spyderco does something in Van Axe and the price is right, I'll probably jump on that. VG10. I know a lot of guys swear by VG10, but that's another one that's super underwhelming to me. I think it's going to be at the very front of D tier, but that's about as good as it's going to get. I like BD1 and Super Blue a touch more than VG10. It does take a nice edge. It is nice and stainless, but edge retention just isn't there. XHP. I've got a little Chaparral lightweight in XHP right now. I've really been digging that steel. Sharpens up nice. Strops back, responds to stropping really well. XHP to me, I'm going to put it at the very front of C tier. It's not quite on the same level as, you know what, that's not right. Because I definitely like XHP more than S35VN. Tell you what, we will put XHP there, and we're going to move S35VN down into C tier. I like that more. Yeah. And last but not least, ZDP 189. I did a long-term carry on ZDP, so I'm pretty familiar with that stuff. It is kind of cool that you can sharpen it with basically anything because it's all chromium carbides. It's funky though. It's really funky. If you take it to like a high grip finish, it has no bite to it. There's just not any bite. It's kind of weird. You could try and cut like a pallet strap or something or a zip tie and you just slide right off. That kind of turned me off as EDP a little bit. Man, this is tough. Edge retention was really good though. I don't know. I'm kind of between B and C. I like it more than S35 for sure, so I'm gonna put it here at the very, very end of B tier. Looking at the chart here, I think I really like the rankings. I think this is pretty fair. So there it is, guys. That's my tier list for knife steels. Let me know down in the comments what you would change about my tier list. Do you think I missed any steels? Do you think I'm disrespecting some steels in here? With that being said, that's going to do it for the video today. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like down below. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.